Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Valerie Day, and I am your host of the podcast Prayers and Pussy, where we have candid conversations about spirituality and sexuality and everything in between. So, tonight I was actually going to talk about my relationship to marijuana and promiscuity, but I'm going to save that for when I'm interviewing someone because I think those two topics will be better served if I've got, somebody that the energy of somebody else as well. So, what we're going to talk about tonight, we're in episode 6. Oh my goodness. And we're going to be exploring how we're spiritually fed. And then I'm going to tell a story about my relationship of healing around Mormonism. But before we get into all that, let me just recap, and then we'll kick off with some stories. But last week I talked about my PhD in dieting and healing my self-worth and body image issues with Louise Hay's mirror work. And I talked about the link between sexual abuse and obesity in women. So if you haven't heard it, go listen to episode 5. But to kick off tonight, what brought me to wanting to speak about this topic was last night I went to Church Home, which is actually a church that has been around for 31 years. It's my first time going. They meet at the Saban Theater, ironically, which is where Agape meets. And they come to town once a month, the fourth Wednesday of the month. And my friend Caroline invited me, and she warned me ahead of time. She said, it's a little Jesus-y, but I just replaced Jesus for God. And so last night, they had music. The service is usually an hour, and they had music for 45 minutes. And then somebody spoke for an hour. And I loved at the beginning when the host pastor came on, like they did music. It was just so amazing. It reminded me of the first time I went to Agape. And I cried through most of last night because the music just moved me and opened me up. And then to be in this room with all these people that are like-minded, it was just amazing. And so it just made me remember some of my own healing journey that I'll get into. And I thought, that's more relevant to talk to you all about tonight. So the minister, when he came on, I just loved it when he greeted everybody. And then he said, you might not believe in God or Jesus, and you're welcome in this room. We accept everybody here. And we're so glad that you're here. And he just made it so comfortable for everybody to be there. And then he went on to say, we're Jesus loving here. And the music was amazing. And, they had the lyrics up on the screen so you could sing along. And, half the time everybody's standing up and I was feeling it. I was just feeling it. Like I said, thinking about, I got to get my Kleenex, making me cry because it was just, I say that when I cry, tears are the barometer of my heart opening. And so, my soul was just so fed last night being in this room where people were worshiping. And what I've learned about myself is that, I can really worship anywhere and feel God, in any spiritual place, that it doesn't have to be a place that's my beliefs, right? The church that I belong to is called Centers for Spiritual Living. And our core concept is oneness. And also what you think about, you bring about, right? But I can go to a Catholic church, a Mormon church, a Buddhist temple, to, Church Home, a very Christian Jesus word, I can really feel like God anywhere. And then I think of my precious friend Tana, who is not a God or Jesus person at all. And she goes and feels God in nature, right? So you don't even need to go to church to feel God, and you don't even have to call it God, right, for it to be, right? I think tonight, the message is about like giving yourself permission to find God, or whatever you want to call it. I call it God, your own way, right? And I was chatting with my friend Martin, who is going to be our first guest next week. Martin, he calls himself the messy mystic. But when I was driving to church home, we were chatting, preparing for our call next week and our interview. And he was talking, he's raised Catholic and I was raised Mormon. And he was, talking about he still, can appreciate going to a Catholic church or goes to different churches, that he doesn't have to always find his spirituality at agape. And I used to say I was spiritually promiscuous because I was a member at agape and a member at Namaste. And, that I really too, found spirituality in many places. So I just opened that up, that, we don't have to be like committed to one church home, right? That we can give ourselves permission to be exploratory and let our hearts be fed wherever, we feel called. So, and Martin and I will dive more into that next week. And I think I'm excited to start interviewing, because I think that exchange of energy with two people, I think it's going to be really rich for me and you and all of us, right? It's just expanding it. I just again felt it was important for me to take this time and, spend these, 6 weeks of just kind of finding my bearings, finding my voice, and being with you and letting you connect with me before I brought on folks that I'm going to interview. So, looking at my notes here, yes, oh my gosh. So, healing around my parents and Mormonism. So, as I mentioned, I think maybe on the first or second episode, my parents were devout Mormon, very, very devout. And what I appreciate most about them is that they weren't hypocritical, right? They walked the talk, and they were very, they practiced what they preached, I guess is the term. Well, so my dad and mom, very involved in their church, kind of just like I am now. And so they were building, and I should have looked before I got on with all of you, but they were building a new temple, a Mormon temple in Newport Beach. And so my dad was very involved and overseeing like all the youth that were going to be volunteering there. It was a really big job for him. And so I didn't really want, and when the Mormons build a temple, before they dedicate it, they open it up to the public to come and tour it. And it's, a way for them to do, missionary work and teach people about the church. And so my dad, of course, wanted me to come. And I was just going out of pure obligation and being a good daughter, right? I didn't really want to go to the temple. And so when we get there, and it's very they're putting a lot of people through. There's tours and groups and times. And they've got it like organized. And, my dad's like doing all this. And so you start off and you go in this room and you watch a film. And then after the film, then they take you from, in Mormon faith, they have a church where you meet on Sunday, and then the temple where it's different. I won't get into all that. But so we go in this room to watch this film, and we're going to be with this group touring the temple. And there were all these crying babies. And my dad was like, no, we're not having none of this. We are not touring the temple with all these crying babies. So he waited and put us with the next group because he didn't want to go with that group. Well, the next group was a bunch of teenagers. And my dad knew a lot of them. And so we joined, my mom, my dad, and I joined this group that was all going together. There were young, youth from, the same ward. And so as we leave from watching the movie, we walk out and we're standing there, and we're outside the church, and you can look across the parking lot and see the temple, and it's gorgeous. And so the man that's leading the tour, And my mom and dad are in the back, and there's all these like cute teenagers in front of us. And, they're probably like between like 12 and 16, I'm guessing. And the man is like talking to them and telling them, you need to live a pure life so that you can like go to the temple. And I'm just feeling like, oh my mind chatter is like, oh my God. And I was totally like disgusted. And why is he telling me to live this way? And, I was really bothered, right? But I'm there for my parents, right? Well, then he's done with all of his, like, trying to tell the kids to, live a pure life and, live so that you can be worthy to go to the temple. And me, all my buttons are being triggered and pushed. So he's done with his little spiel, and we're going to, like, walk across the parking lot to go to the temple. But we're standing there, and I look up, and in big gold letters on the top of the building, and it's gorgeous in big letter. I mean, it's like the building's gold and there's letters, and it says House of the Lord. And it washes over me that when I travel, or I love going to churches. And I can remember being in Italy and like sitting in the big cathedral and having such a spiritual moment, and like being in Greece, and like I've had all these amazing like spiritual moments in churches when I travel, like a lot of stories around that. So when I saw House of the Lord, it just made me remember like, oh, this is no different than when you go into these churches when you travel. And it was like this whole transformational moment of me going from like, oh my God, I can't believe he's telling these kids to like be chaste and pure and worthy. And, like I was so bugged by the speech that this man was giving these kids, to like, it was just this whole transformation. And so we go into the temple, and when you first enter, there's this big baptismal font, because the Mormons believe in doing baptisms for the dead. So he's like shows us that, and then, I forget the like, first room that we go into, but maybe like he takes us into a room where I don't remember. It's been a long time, but the important part of the story, not only was the healing the house of the Lord, but before we get into the celestial room, which when we go in there, it's gorgeous. It's like you're in a castle in Europe. It's stunningly beautiful. And I mean, the furniture and the scene, it's just like perfection, right? And because they're all young kids, they let my parents are older, right? Sit down. There's this gorgeous piece of furniture. You feel like you're sitting on a chair you're not supposed to be sitting on, that's in a castle. It's so beautiful. So I'm sitting in between my parents. But before we go into the room, this is the important part that I left out, was that the guide says to the student, now mind you, they're teenagers, that when we're going to go in here, we want to enter in the silence, so we want to be in the silence. And so he's speaking my language, right? I'm the meditator. Like, I live and love and like crave the silence, right? I know some of you know me well. That's hard to believe, but it's true. So we go in and we sit down, my mom and my dad, and I'm sitting between them, and like it was silent. You could hear a pin drop. Here's all these teenagers being quiet. And I'm sitting between my parents, and, the healing came because I was in their sacred holy place. And it was a union because we were meditating and being quiet and observing, God in the way that I'm used to doing it. And it was like the most beautiful experience to heal that judgment around the Mormon faith and Mormonism and, all my baggage. It was like, here I went out of obligation to be a good daughter, and I healed all of that. in that moment, sitting in that celestial room with my parents. And it was so precious. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to have that healing moment. Clearly, it's moving as I've cried through this whole thing. So, I wish I could put it on like mute and blow my nose. It's not like we're on Zoom. I was actually going to record on Zoom tonight because next week that's what we're going to do. But so I won't blow my nose on y'all. But okay, that was my story. And let's see what I've got left for y'all. I think we might have covered all my stuff, which is great because we're getting to the end of time. So, well, I wanted to do something fun and tell you another story. So I have not, I was laid off last January. I mentioned that on one of the earlier podcasts. And so I've been relying on my Airbnb income and my practitioner income as I build my practice and a little rental income. So far less than I'm used to because I had a position where I was very generously compensated and I'm missing that generous compensation. So I've had to learn to be frugal and I've had to learn how to receive, and I've had a lot of generosity. I've had, people give me, I might have mentioned this on my other podcast, like $100 here, $20 there, $90 here. Like people are just giving to me. And, I've really had to practice learning to receive. And so today, I called, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of mud water, but I had a package sitting on the floor that I needed to return. I didn't open up. It's an auto ship item. And here I have a package to show you. Mud water. And it's basically a healthy version of coffee. And the people that started it were coffee lovers like me, but they didn't want the caffeine, the downside of caffeine. So it has only 16% of the caffeine in a regular cup of coffee. And it's got all these other yummy adaptogens: cacao, lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, reishi, cinnamon, turmeric, Himalayan salt. So it's really good for you, right? Well, I haven't been drinking as much of it as I used to, and I already have a bag up in the cupboard and maybe 3/4 of a bag in the kitchen. So I didn't need this extra bag, and it's a 3-month supply, and it's $90. So I reached out to Mudwater. I sent him a little note and said, I'm really sorry to do this, but, I need to return this. And, I just wrote a little nice email. I'm learning to be frugal. And so if you can refund my money, let me know if I need to, return to sender or whatever, right? What do I need to do to return this? She replies back and offers that I can keep it. I don't need to return it. And that's $90. She's like, just keep it. And I was just so moved by that. And I think I'm a little extra emotional this week. I learned on Tuesday that I innocently went in to go get my teeth cleaned and, found out I needed $6,000 to $8,000 of dental work. So that, and then we've got the full moon and we're in eclipse season and, the equinox, and just so I'm kind of feeling emotional this week. And I think last night really opened me up at church home, singing about Jesus and God. So I wanted to share with you because podcasts, all the podcasts that I follow and love and adore, they have sponsors. So one day I'm going to have sponsors, but in the meantime, Mudwater gave me a bag. So I wanted you guys to know about it. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes. If you want to try Mudwater, you can get 20% off your first order. So shop away, people. And then one other thing that I used tonight before I use essential oils. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just put it, if I'm not diffusing it, I'll put it in my hands and I'll rub it together and smell. It's so wonderful. I use that when I do my practitioner sessions. But so that's a cedarwood oil that I just put on. And let me tell you what it has in it. It's for grounding, calming, uplifting, aphrodisiac effects. on the mood, as well as warming effects on the skin. It is ideal for enhancing skin quality and addressing acne. It's great for soothing respiratory ailments such as coughs and bronchitis, as well as physical stress and inflammation. It can be used in food preservation. It also has sedative properties which help relax and relieve tension in the mind and body. And applied topically on sore muscles, cedarwood oil soothes and diminishes soreness. So if you're interested in learning more about essential oils, message me. I'm happy to tell you more about them. But that's what I wanted to share with you. I feel like I'm missing something. Let me just pause for a minute and check in and see if there's anything else that we need to be talking about or wanted to share with you. All right. Let us close out. I love this bell from Japan. And I love all of you guys for showing up, for listening, for caring, for being open. Yes, yes, yes. So let me just say our closing prayer. So just recognizing that one mind, that one power, that one infinite intelligence in all, as all, through all, my life, the one life. I know that each person that is hearing this prayer is an expression of God in action. God in action. I give thanks for amazing church home opening my heart last night. I give thanks for the wonderful lady at Mudwater that just gifted me this $90 bag of mud water. I give thanks for all of the gifts and support that I've received. And as I know that I'm receiving these gifts, I know too that each person that's hearing this call is also receiving the gifts of their life. They are open to receive whatever gifts are coming their way. I give thanks and affirm that each person hearing this is free to have their own personal relationship with God or Jesus or just nature. If, whoever, whatever their way of connecting with that infinite intelligence that is who and what they are. It might be surfing in the ocean. It might be hiking in the mountains. It might be sitting in a Buddhist temple and praying. It might be chanting. It might be dancing. It might be going to church on Sunday and hearing the rituals and the message that moves and opens our hearts. It might be in community. So I just bless everybody's path to their own personal awakening. I just call forth a deep self-knowing self, self-loving self. I just call forth all needs met, deep transformation, deep revelations, God unto God, love unto love, peace unto peace, wholeness unto wholeness, love unto love, joy unto joy. I just affirm that all is unfolding for the highest good of each person that is hearing this prayer. The highest good is operating in, through, and as their life. So for this and so much more, I'm just truly grateful. I'm truly, truly grateful. I give thanks for all that's been known, felt, shared, experienced, witnessed. I release this part of the action of the law, knowing it's complete, knowing it's done, saying, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen. 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 Peace and blessings to you, beautiful, amazing humans. And just to remind you that in the show notes, you can find the link if you'd like to register through Eventbrite for the free meditation and prayer call that I lead Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. We meet on Zoom. And then if you'd like to book a private counseling session with me, you can do that at valerieday.com. It would be my sacred honor to sit with you. So just signing off. Prayer warrior, love practitioner. See you next week with my friend Martin. I can't wait for you to meet him. We're going to have a yummy conversation. He is the messy mystic. Can't wait. Love you. Bye. Signing off.